Hey everyone, hi, this is Joey with Love and Laughter Music Group, and today we're going to be talking about good, great, and hit songs. What's the difference? If you're a songwriter, and what happens if you don't write a hit song? Does that mean you can't make a living? No, absolutely not. We're going to be covering that. But more importantly, I want you to stick around at the very end because we're going to be summarizing all the points that I'm covering today. So let's get with it. Okay, so what's the difference between a good, great, and a hit song? Well, if I mentioned artists or bands like the Beatles, or an artist like Stevie Wonder, or a hip-hop artist like Tupac Shakur, or a rock band like the Rolling Stones, we can immediately think about hit songs that they wrote that everyone relates to, and there's some qualities and certain characteristics of those songs that really make them stand out, and that's why they were hits. But does that mean that just because I can't write a hit song or I don't know how to write a hit song that I can't make a living? Absolutely not. And so we're going to be talking about how you can even use good songs and great songs, even though they may not be hit quality, but you can make them commercially viable so that you can still make a living. Hey, I'm an example. I've written a lot of different songs. I wouldn't say necessarily that they're all hit songs. I think some of them have been, but the good and the great songs, I've still been able to make money from them and make a living from them because they've ended up on a commercial or on a TV show or on a movie. And all those things still make them very valuable as I continue to be a songwriter and write and produce for a lot of different people. And so now I want to define for you what are the characteristics of a hit song. One of the first things that we understand about a hit song is that they have strong hooks, and those hooks relate to a much larger audience than the good or great songs. And so it's really important that we understand what goes into writing a strong hook that is relatable to a strong audience. It's more universal. It has a much larger appeal to the listener. The second thing is that most hit songs don't just have one characteristic that is catchy. In other words, a strong melody, or just a strong lyric, or just a strong musical arrangement. But they tend to layer them together, and we call these subhooks. So you may have an amazing lyric, but it also has an amazing accompaniment, harmony, chords. Maybe it's a great melody line that you can't get out of your head. As a matter of fact, most hit songs, whether you love them or you hate them, you can't get them out of your head. The lyrics also are memorable. In other words, they connect and relate to the listener on a much broader level. So it's something that you can relate to, whether emotionally, or maybe it's funny, or maybe it's rhythmic, or maybe it's a party song, whatever it is, but we all connect and relate to it. And so when you combine all those elements together, then you end up with a great hit song. Now, one more thing. A lot of people say, hey, does it have to be this amazingly talented artist or singer or performer? Not all the time. Does it help? Sure it does. It's wonderful to have great artists that are great singers or great musicians. But does that categorize it being a hit song? No. In other words, if you find the right combination of hit songs that I just mentioned, and you combine it with an artist who can communicate it with the same passion and emotion, then you're still going to have a hit song, whether that artist or that performer is of the highest quality or not. So not everybody writes hit songs all the time. But the cool thing is that even if you can write good songs and great songs, you can still make a living. How? A commercial, some kind of a video, maybe it's an industrial video, or maybe it's on YouTube, perhaps it's on TV or film, and it's very lucrative, and you can still make a living from using those kind of songs. So just because you don't necessarily write a hit song that's going to be heard all over the world, it doesn't mean that you still can't make a living. I started out just writing songs for other people that were, in some cases, hardly known. But guess what happened? A lot of those same artists ended up getting signed to major labels. And guess what happened to my song? One that perhaps I thought was just good or maybe a great song, well, it got elevated into a totally different category and position because the person who was recording it got signed to Motown or to Universal or to another major label. And so sometimes it's a combination of all the writing that you do and all the time you put into it and how memorable it is, but also it has to do with the networking, and it has to do with the artist and with the record label and the radio airplay that it receives. So no, you don't necessarily always have to write hit songs, but if you can learn how to write good songs and great songs, and yes, why not strive for a hit song? But if you don't, you can still make a living, and that's an important thing. Okay, so in summary, we talked first of all about, if I don't write a hit song, can I still make a living? And the answer is absolutely yes, you can. So you can still make a living if you write a good or great song. And you can use it for films or for jingles or commercials or any other use. So just because you're not writing a hit song every time you create something doesn't mean that it doesn't have a commercial use. The second thing we talked about is that one way in which you can make a living is by creating good songs and great songs that are memorable and that can be useful in a multitude of ways. And the last thing we talked about are the actual characteristics of hit songs. And we talked about several things, including that hit songs really have layering. In other words, you have a strong melodic hook, but they're also layered with other, what we call sub-hooks, which can be a great rhythm section. It could be a horn line. It could be a great lyrical line. And then the last thing that we touched upon is that they have memorable lyrics. Hit songs have memorable lyrics that are relatable to everyone, and everyone connects with them. And that's why they cross the borderline of all aspects of musical genres and styles. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you want more information, because there's so much more to share with you about all these points, be sure you check out the links below, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in.